It's a masterpiece. Can't even see it because my fat head's in the way. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Evangeline and I am a writer and a script editor. If you're watching this video, then you're either a newbie screenwriter or you're like me and you find scene headings really confusing. Well, obviously not anymore, but I do remember the dark days of not knowing how to write a scene heading properly or when to transition into a new scene heading. So I think it's safe to say that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes I love them, but most of the time I hate them. You might be thinking, surely they can't be that hard. Well, they are, so f you. I'm kidding, it's not that hard. I'm probably just a bit thick. And evidently so are you. That was also a joke. Hopefully after this video you will understand scene headings perfectly and you will look back on this time in a few months and think, wow, what a loser. Seriously, when I read over scripts that I wrote when I was like 16, the scene headings are honestly shambolic. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's begin. So I'm gonna firstly show you how to just write a standard scene heading and then we'll unpack how to know when a new scene heading is needed in a screenplay. And lastly, I'm going to try and explain secondary scene headings because I hate myself and I hate you too. Like and subscribe. So in order to write a scene heading, there are 3 elements that need to be included. Or in other words, 3 bits of information that we need to clarify before we can start writing the action and the dialogue. The scene heading is the first thing that we see after all, and therefore it's a great time to let the reader know, you know, where and when the scene is set. So the 3 elements are, we either need the interior and the exterior, we need the location, and we need the time of day. So without these 3 bits of information, the scene won't make any sense and we won't know where we are or when it's taking place. And if we want to think also further down the line of like production, then the producer, the director, the art department, first AD, the location manager, etc, they all need to know, you know, where and when they are and how many locations they're in and how many different time periods. So I think it's safe to say that scene headings are a very important and vital part of screenwriting. Right, so here is an example of a scene heading. As you can see, we have the interior and the exterior. In this case, it's interior. We have the location, which is a school, and we have the time of day, which is the morning. The way in which we format this into a screenplay is we write in all capitals with a full stop after the interior or exterior and then a dash after the location. It's easy enough, right? But what happens when it comes to transitioning from one scene to another? Now you might be thinking, well, you just change scene when the scene changes, which that's true, that is correct, but what actually counts as a new scene? A common mistake I made when I first started screenwriting was that I only really changed scene when Ambo, there's an Ambo. I watch too much Bondi Beach and I always like have like, instead of saying ambulance, I say Ambo because that's what they say in Bondi. Anyway, so where was I? So a common mistake I made when I first started screenwriting was that I would only really change scene when my character changed location. But there is a little bit more to it than that. You also need a new scene heading if your character moves from, say, one room, let's use a school as an example, one room inside the school to another room inside the school, even if it's part of the same action. So say they're having a conversation and they move from the school corridor into the school lunch hall, that would still require a new scene heading. The same goes for if your character moves from inside to outside within the same action or conversation. or like time frame, you still need a new scene heading. And the same it goes for if you jump ahead in time. So here is our scene heading. We have the 3 elements: interior, exterior, location, and time of day. All you need to remember is that if one of these elements change, so if the interior changes to exterior, for example, if the location changes, or if there is a jump ahead in time, that's a new scene and you therefore need a new scene heading. So I'm going to jump back to what I was saying about location changes, and how even if a character walks from one room to another room, it still needs to be a separate scene. Or does it? This is where secondary scene headings come in. Now, at the beginning of this video, I probably made it sound like these are the worst thing ever, and they aren't. I admit when I first started screenwriting and I first learned about scene headings, secondary scene headings, which I didn't use for quite a long time, to be honest, it took a while for me to get my head around it. But once I got it, and it's fine. But it can just be a little bit like confusing to begin with, but I'm going to try my best to explain it to you. So essentially, secondary scene headings are used within a master scene, which indicates a primary location, and this is to create better flow within a scene when the characters are moving from one place to another, especially if it's like in quick succession. So let's just use the school as an example again. So we have our master scene, which is written like a normal scene heading, and then let's say our character moves to the corridor. You just write that in capital letters. You just write the location in capital letters like so. So you can have several secondary scene headings as long as they're all within and part of that same master scene, the primary location. So you could have the school as your primary location, as your master scene, and then you could have the corridor, the lunch hall, the where else is there in a school? The staff room, you know, and if your character's kind of moving through the school throughout the scene, talking to the same person, let's say, then that could be a great way to like keep that flow going rather than having to keep, you know, putting new full scene headings all the time. But you need to remember that if, say, that then the character was to move to the playground, that is obviously changing one of those 3 things, and that does require a new scene heading. So essentially, the master scene heading identifies the primary location, and then the secondary headings identify the more specific locations within the primary location. Does that make sense? The use of master and secondary scene headings can come in handy when writing like an action sequence or like a chase sequence. I think that's mainly the only time I really use it. If you've got all sorts of scenes all like spliced together, really fast paced, you know, which our hero is like passing through really quickly, it's obviously a lot easier to write that with secondary scene headings, and the flow, you kind of get the idea of the flow of it more so than you would if you were like scene heading, scene heading, scene heading, scene heading sort of thing. For example, if we had like a chase through London, let's say, we would use the streets of London as our primary location, as our master scene heading, and then the secondaries would be things like South Bank, Big Ben, Westminster Bridge, etc, etc. The moment the chase scene either comes to an end, or say the chase moves out of London, then that's when a new master scene heading is needed, because we've changed primary location. We're not in London anymore, and therefore we can't write within that master scene anymore because it's ended, it's not there. So I hope that made some sort of sense. I've tried to kind of make this a little bit more interesting to watch, and I've used a little bit of whiteboard work. Hopefully it made a little bit of sense, I don't know, but I'm trying to sort of do some more screenwriting videos. I have one on formatting which you can check out, and there are certainly more to come. Before I end this video, I just want to do a little bit of shameless what the hell is going on? Shameless self-promo for my script editing little business thing. So I'm a script editor, as I mentioned at the start of the video, and I have my own website and my own little business, and if you are looking for a script editor, then you can check me out on my website. I will link it all below, and I'm very affordable. and all the information is on my website, but you can also feel free to contact me. My contact details are also on my website. And yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next video.